I remember really early on when Rick Carter and Stephen and I were talking about this movie, we were talking about how impactful so many of the still images were from the time. And I think that informed the style in which Stephen approached the film.
And camera.
Telling stories like this often have to be snapshots, frames in which you can tell so much emotionally just in what you're looking at in Lincoln lying crumpled in the bed, or whether you're just watching him hold a watch or look out a window. Many of those images are just single moments. What was really extraordinary was that Rick spent a great deal of time working with his set decorator, focusing on things as seemingly inconsequential as a piece of wallpaper that maybe appears in the background. And yet, if you went to an actual historical photo and you looked at the wallpaper that was behind Lincoln, you'll see that exactly that design is in the movie.
Ma'am?
For me, the heart of the movie is his office, where he did most of his work as President of the United States. I always felt it was very important to have it be as close to the real office as we know it to be as possible.
Well, that's really important. I mean, when he'd write speeches sometimes, he would write little fragments of them and put them in drawers or put them in the cubby holes, and everybody thought he just made them up at the last minute, but he didn't.
That kind of level of detail, whether it be a battle map or a little note or pictures that are on the walls or the wallpaper that we had to have created in the old-fashioned way with silk screening, exactly the way it was. It wasn't that it was painstaking, it was more, let's get that part of it right. Let's do a service to the actors and the storytellers, and then maybe even just imagery that will live on when people want to know what it was like to be in Lincoln's White House.
Not always does a production designer feel a need to pay attention to that kind of detail. The texture of a piece of clothing, a bedspread, the luminescence of a curtain hanging in front of a window, all of those details were going to become important in this film.
This is all built in fake plastic, and it's all...
Yeah?
But notice how this is so that you see, want him to have to duck. So,
How great.
the real opportunity / challenge for me as a production designer is that while it is a big story, it's being told intimately. It's very much, here's his world. Here's the White House, there's the entrance, there's his office, there's his living quarters, here's the Congress, a lot of places that he just would be in his world. Jim Erickson, the set decorator, has just gone to extraordinary lengths to help make that as real and detailed as we possibly can, and yet expressionistic.
That's a Godey's ladies magazine.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
that's
she
it.
read.
Yeah, which she would have read, exactly.
Then there's another level, which is the detail, personal level, where there are so many documents and things that people are touching and communicating with and signing, and really at the heart of it is this 13th Amendment.
Between takes, me and Jeremy Strong would just walk around and pick up pieces of paper and read them, and they're all real letters that had been sent to Lincoln, people with grievances or questions or requests. Every single detail is accounted for, as far as I can see, in the set decoration.
It became equally important for what Joanna was doing with the costume design.
Look at Joanna Johnston's costumes and realize that what she's doing is she's first and foremost creating a silhouette of a man.
Daniel's physicality is amazing because he did drop weight, which was unbelievable. It was really very slim, and that hanging, which is what I wanted, that sort of hanging effect of the clothes. At the top around his back, you feel the weight of the position he's in. Originally, I thought maybe he was going to go red or green. In fact, I went to a sort of very dark dark brown, which I think was right because it's supposed to be. But one of the original hats in the US is stuff now dark rock and leather lining, which used to tuck all his notes into all his speeches. It all goes tucked into that.
That's my speech.
There's a company in Italy who are best hat makers of this type of hat, so his hat was made in Italy.
Her costumes are just extraordinary.
Mary Todd loved purples, blues, lilacs and creams and pinks. Those were her main colours that she was very keen on.
Almost all of Mary's costumes are exact replicas of the clothes that she was able to find photographs or paintings of, including the final dress that you see Mary in, even though it's just ever so briefly when he's dying. And we worked very, very closely because we wanted to have Mary's measurements.
Sally had to sort of chump up a bit because she's so slim. So Sally went on a sort of big weight-on situation over several months.
Rarely will you hear an actress go, "Oh my goodness, my waist is an inch bigger." Yes, but that's what we would do. And Joanna would get so excited when I was bigger, but she'd get mad that it wasn't going to all of the right places.
Oh, it's late, Mrs. Keckley.
All she needs is for the grand reception.
For the reception, the first reception scene at the White House, I found this large yardage of lace which went all the way around the flounces at the bottom, but I was 5 yards short to complete the dress. So I sent a piece out to Pakistan and they copied the embroidery and then came back and we finished it just 2 days before we shot. Seward was very conscious of his clothes. I could see that. He was very travelled. At one scene in the film with Lincoln, he wears a robe, quite strong yellow robe. I couldn't believe I found it, actually. It was a robe which is made out of 18th century Chinese silk, and it was made up in Morocco sometime in the first part of the 19th century.
They're not really costumes. They are the clothes. On display for the fitting I had was this clothing from that time. I think they were museum pieces. They were extraordinary to have the real thing right there. When you have that to get inside, it obviously gives you a physical signal of just the way the things fit. Or these things in bow ties and the pants come up to here, and it changes your posture. And then you look around at everybody else, and then you're in the world.
Thaddeus Stevens was clearly not interested in his clothes at all, and he was really sloppy, and he had a problem with his foot, and we know that he had a limp, and he had to have a cane all the time.
That cane belongs to me. I acquired it in Buenos Aires 2 or 3 years ago. I liked it because the head of it is a greyhound, and we had 2 greyhounds that we were very fond of. And when I learned that Thaddeus Stevens had a club foot and took a cane with him everywhere he went, I said, I have just the prop. And sent a picture of it to Stephen, or showed it to him, and he said, yes, that's a good cane. And so we began to use it, and after a while took on a life of its own.
Tommy, can you put the cane out in front of you more, like I see it hitting the ground?
Yes.
That'd be great. That's wonderful. That's great.
So that prop comes from a beloved dog.
What Lois, the makeup artist, has had to do is to not do so much that it's about the makeup. It's how to let that which is Daniel Day-Lewis's face become Lincoln's face. It's an interpretation that has to work for the man.
At that point in time, obviously, he was under enormous stress, and therefore we wanted that stress to come out on Daniel Day-Lewis's face. So we obviously wanted him to look as much like Lincoln as possible, but without it becoming an unwieldy makeup. There were 2 people working on him, myself and Kenny Myers. We wanted to give Stephen his vision and Daniel a makeup that he could perform in without it being an encumbrance. So it's not a look-alike from a makeup perspective. It's much more a feel-alike. And there was a point where we just stopped looking at all reference. It was just the feel working with that face of Daniel Day. It seems on paper such a simple makeup because it isn't a massive prosthetic as such. But I hope that we've achieved what was needed without that by painting.
It's as though Steven Spielberg was invited with his crew to time travel back to 1865 and to reenact the passage of the 13th Amendment and to abolish slavery and end the Civil War. But that's the level of respect that people are showing.